All right, this is what I prefer as I prefer the Privateer Press um, primer. That just works for me. Some people like other primers, but that's the one I like. It gives you a mist style spray. When you spray your model, make sure you're hitting it at least 12 inches away, at least 12 inches away from the model, and you missed the model. You don't hit it with the direct spray because you're gonna you might end up covering a lot of the detail on your model. So, all right, since some of you have been asking how I go about painting my miniatures, I'll go through a quick tutorial of how I do it. My stuff's rank and file style, just to get your miniatures on the gaming table pretty quickly and looking decent. So also with my style, you can always go back and paint them with more detail if you want. So let's get started. I start by making a wet palette, which is just a regular plastic box with the cover, so you can cover your paints and they can last a little longer. I don't like painting straight out of the bottle, so what I do is make this. You put just a wet napkin in there, and just to give it the moisture, and then you put parchment paper that you can get off of any grocery store in the baking section. You can get your parchment paper, cut out a little piece, put it on top. It's not gonna seep through like a regular napkin, so with the parchment paper there, you put a couple of drops of whatever paint you're gonna use, and you work off of that. So that works for me, especially since I'm in a very hot area where the paint would dry up before I even put it on the model. Also, pick at least minimum 2 colors that are, it doesn't matter what colors what company they are or anything, but as long as they work for you. You get your base color, and you'll be working off your base color, and then you'll start painting your model with your base colors. You don't bring the highlight in yet. After you get them with these base colors right there, and then what you do is you get an ink. I forgot if this is a Reaper or a Citadel ink, but what you do is you brush the ink into the crevices of the model. Then you go back and you use your base color again just to get the white areas, and you just don't paint over the little crevices in the model. That way it gives it illusion of shadow. You could come back, and then also then that's where you come back and use your lighter color, which is for the highlights, and then you get this effect right here, where I don't know if you can see it. You get that effect where that is done with just those colors right there, and it gives the illusion of the the muscle and the creases in the clothing and all that. You pick for every piece. Like if you're gonna pick for the clothing, you pick the base color and then the lighter color, and you work off of that. On the base, I just use Elmer's glue and then just put some turf on it, and there you go. As far as brushes, you can go all out and go onto an art store and get really fine detailed brushes, but just keep in mind that it might run you at least a minimum of $5 to $10 a brush there. If you just go to your hobby store, you get your base brushes. They're okay if you're just needing to put paint on your model. If you're not going for award-winning, then don't worry about it. Just get your practice, get the feel of how to paint. And once you get really good, it depends how far you want to push painting. If you really want to win awards, and that's when you go to the art stores and get those finer brushes. But always keep on hand a dry brush, your standard brushes, and some fine detail brushes. When you put the base when you put the base colors on the model, you use your standard brushes, and then to put the highlights, you can go with the dry brush and just kind of lightly hit the model ridges and edges, and you'll get the highlights off of that. For the fine detail brushes, you could use that for smaller details like the face and the eyes and the teeth, if that's what you want to do. So that's how that part goes. And I'll be putting the links to the other painters' websites, or maybe YouTube channels. That way you can check their techniques out. They're really good, and I'm sure they'll get your painting to another level. So thank you. Also, just on another note, these I paint in an assembly style painting. What you do is you paint one color. You put 4 of the same models or same color schemes that you're gonna have, and you paint. If they're all gonna have the same color of clothing or flesh tones, you go through one. Let's say you go through all the flesh tones, and then you go like from, you put 3 or 4. By the time you get to the first model, you can go on to the next color, and then you do that for that color, and then you go back to the next one, and then you'll assembly line paint like at least 3 or 4. By the time you finish all of them, by the time you finish the last one, you can start on the first one. So it's always going to be like that in a rotation, and that way you can keep them consistent on their look, especially if they're part of a team or you want them uniform. So and it's easier for when you're picking your color selection. That way you're not jumping around too much. All right. Once you have it all painted up and you have your model all painted up, which is you got all your highlights and everything on it, and it's ready to be used on the gaming table, what I use is just regular Krylon art crafts gloss coating and matte finish. So that's what I use. They're not expensive. You could find them anywhere. What I do is I spray this one and spray the gloss one, and I hit it consistent misting on it until it gets an even coat on the whole model. I let it dry up, then I come back when it's dry, and then I hit it, and then I mist with the matte finish just to take the gloss shine off of the model. So those are the spray cans I use for these, and it works for me. I'm sure there's other ones out there that everybody has their own preference, but that's what I use. Thank you.